Welcome to Licensed Poetics, a podcast about books and art. I'm your host, Vallentin. And today we have two recurring guests in the studio with me, Derek and Anya. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thanks for having us.
This is the first time we're having recurring guests on the podcast. The listeners should be familiar with their voices already. And both of your episodes were very popular in terms of the listener count and also just word of mouth feedback. So I'm so excited to have you guys back.
I'm surprised about how that happened without pictures of our faces on them.
Yeah. Wait till they see this.
Wait till they see it.
See what's going on.
I'll try not to forget to take photos today. Speaking of...
That's for the OnlyFans.
Yeah, speaking of pictures... I'll explain the OnlyFans joke later. But speaking of pictures, you might have noticed the cover of this episode is different than usual. Shout out to my friend Sophie for creating this lovely illustration. It goes together with the book that we're going to talk about today because this is a very special book club episode. So three of us, we have all read this book and we're going to talk about it today. You've met her, actually. She was at the party. Shout out to everyone who came to the party. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed the Kahoot. Some of you did very well, which showed that you listened to every single episode. So I really appreciate that. Next time there's a party, Derek is going to help me come up with the questions.
That'll be really good because I usually just listen to my episode on repeat and then I fall asleep.
So they really will all be about you.
I can't wait for that.
I'm scared.
So the story is that at the party, I asked people to leave messages on a board and like what content they might want to see on this Buy Me a Coffee page that I just started. And then this guy and also Andrew were like, you just start OnlyFans. And I was like, guys, I don't even show my face on this podcast. What do you want me to show? And then you're like, you don't have to show your face. Just make audio porn. Wait, what is it? Like ASMR?
Oh, okay. ASMR.
Like,
got it. Yeah, exactly.
See, there you go. At the party, she did this she had this it was like a trivia question, and one of the questions was like, "Is this the true or false? This is the song from the episode, like the
intro music,
intro music."
Yeah,
and then she played it, and it sounded almost exactly the same. So a bunch of people picked true.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, guys, that's the trailer music. Like, who is meant to know the answer to this?
Oh my God, you made this quiz ruthless.
Well, you didn't have to know it was the trailer music. You just had to know it wasn't the intro music, right?
I got it right. Because when you opened up the screen,
it
said trailer music. And I was like, okay, well, then the answer's no.
So
otherwise, it'd say intro music.
Okay, so a brief introduction of today's guests for any new listeners. Derek is a writer and screenwriter and self-proclaimed newbie reader. He says he doesn't read much, but it's up to us if we believe him or not. But anyway, I look forward to hearing your opinion on today's book. And Anya is a writer and screenwriter from London, and she has worked on lots of film, short film, and TV projects. And one of my favorite moments from your episode, the last time you were here, Anya, was when you were talking about listening to The Tropic of Cancer by Henry Miller, which was a very explicit book.
Yeah.
Anya was listening to it in the car with the windows down in her morning commute.
And then I was like, as I was reading this book that we're going to talk about today, I was like, oh no, this is another explicit book. Like, this is just going to be my thing now, and I hate that. I
love it. I think it's great.
Only read erotic fiction.
It would be great if all the book club episodes were just erotic fiction.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm so down.
I'd be down for that, to be honest.
That would be so good.
But you don't say anything. You just wait for all your listeners to be like, hang on a second.
Yeah, every single...
So we're going to do a live reading. We're going to do a live reading.
Honestly, if all the erotic fiction for the book club is as good as this one that we're going to talk about, I'm so down.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard to find though.
Yeah.
I think you can justify erotic fiction so long as it seems literary as long as it's about sadness and insanity.
Yeah, that's true. As long
what
as
a great
it's
summary.
So weird that it distracts you from the actual sex stuff.
What a great summary of the book, Derek. Sadness and insanity. That's
pretty
beautiful.
Much. Yeah. That is it in a nutshell.
Before we go deep into the discussion, I have to ask people for money first. So thank you so much to everyone who have supported LP on Buy Me a Coffee. If you go there to the Buy Me a Coffee page, you'll see I created a post where I revealed a little bit of the origin story of LP. So if you're interested, go check that out. I'm offering a range of perks there for members and also individual items for purchase in the shop. For example, members can receive a life update audio message from me every month, and also a poetry review column by me every month. So, which is a great way to get into poetry if you're interested. And you can also submit your own book or film review to be featured on these episodes. I know someone out there is really keen to review The Room by Tommy Wiseau. Have either of you heard of it?
Yeah, sure.
Everybody
Everybody knows about
knows
The Room.
it, yeah.
But is that a book as well?
No, it's a movie.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Feel free to submit.
I was like, how did they adapt? Why?
Yeah, I was like, in my brain, I was like, surely that wasn't a novel. Like, how can that be a novel before?
Yeah, one of you, Alan, is very keen on reviewing that film. So I look forward to receiving your review.
Wasn't
to
Alan
be
a fake
featured.
guy at the Kahoot, or is he real?
Oh my god,
He's
this is
real.
so sad for Alan if he's real. Derek.
He's real. There's a picture of me and him in the Kahoot.
Oh, I was thinking of Matt.
Oh, yeah.
So Alan is real and Matt is a fictional
is not.
human being.
Matt is Heather and Andrew combined together when they play the Kahoot.
Ah.
I don't know why they chose the word Matt. It's really funny because in the Kahoot, Matt was like on the top scoreboard the whole time. And everyone was like, who's Matt? Who the F is Matt?
Yeah.
And then someone else was also leading. It was my friend Reed and Chris combined, and their name was Roast Duck 69. And then who else was leading? Marlene, our previous guest, she was
Molly
leading.
Bukoron.
Yeah. I'm sorry you missed the party, Anya.
I know. I was sad too. It was like one of those days at work where everything goes wrong. So we went overtime.
Oh no. Before we jump into the book club, I wanted to mention the few other books that we also considered reading. We considered Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin and Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Yeah, so
Just for the record,
Mhm.
I want it on record that we went with my pick.
yes.
Yeah. Can I point at, well, just ask, I guess. Can I ask Derek, like, if you say you're like a new reader, why did you read this book? Like,
Exactly.
how did you stumble upon it?
We should probably say the title first. We haven't said the title of the book yet.
Yeah.
So the book club, our first ever LP book club, we're reading The Vegetarian by South Korean writer Han Kang.
Yeah. I actually have no idea why I found it or where I found it. I'm sure I just like picked it up because it looked weird. And then
The cover is very good.
Yeah.
yeah.
I love the cover.
Striking.
It's quite well known, I think, because it won the Man Booker International Prize. So a lot of bookshelves are putting it like front and center.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah. It's even a bestseller in China as well.
Oh, I'm sure I saw something about erotic, and then I was like,
Okay, the truth has come out.
Yeah,
that
I'm
was
su-
the
I'm sure-
buzzword.
yeah, I'm
You're
sure.
like,
I'm sure
in.
that's what it. I'm sure that's what it was. I was like,
And can I also point out, if that's the reason you wanted to read it, you didn't tell us about it. You just sold it to us as like, yeah, it's kind of like creepy and weird. And so we were like, sure. You did not mention the erotic stuff. So-
I was like, well, like horny and scary is kind of the vibe. Right?
That is
You're
a
not
great
wrong.
point, though. This book is not, I would say, beginner friendly.
Yeah.
Well, what does beginner friendly mean?
I think in terms of fiction, which this is literary fiction, beginner friendly would be, I guess, more plot focused.
Yeah.
And the story has a clear beginning, middle, and end with maybe a hero's journey that's clearer to identify as a beginner reader. Because I've had people tell me that when they read a book, they're just trying to like get through it and figure out what happens next, which is fine. It's a perfectly valid way of reading, but I don't think this book, you wouldn't get as much out of this book if you read it that way, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
Because it's really, in terms of plot, it's very bare bones. It's more about
That's right.
like
yeah.
the feeling and
And the imagery
atmosphere.
and stuff.
Only
yeah.
3 or
Yeah.
4 things actually happen, and they happen
Yeah.
from different points of view again.
Yeah, that's
it's really.
right.
It reminds me of. It's so funny. This is the first thing I thought of. Did anyone ever watch this movie, Vantage Point or Point Break or something? And it was like it's about the assassination.
Point Break is a Keanu Reeves
Okay, so it's
surfing
not that
action
one.
movie.
It's not that one. Not Point
Wait,
Break.
Keanu Reeves surfing action.
It's Keanu Reeves.
I was
and,
gonna say that's sounds awesome.
what's his face?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a brilliant film. So anyone who likes Keanu Reeves
This
and
is
likes
great.
surfing films, go for it.
But like it's just about the assassination of a president, and you see it from like 6 different points of view, and it's like I don't know why that was the analogy I decided to bring to this, but I really like that. Like, oh, there's 3 characters, there's 3 acts. It's like,
Yeah.
great.
Well, there's a book called The Last Duel, which I haven't read, but I did watch the movie. I think it was Ridley Scott's last film, like before Napoleon.
Oh, The Last Duel?
Yeah. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it was a great movie.
Great movie. And it does the same thing where it's like mostly one event and then it's just 3 people's perspectives on what's going on.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the theme of our last episode, Derek, was when Derek would mention a TV show or a movie and be like, have you seen it? And I was like, no. It happened like 3 times
the whole episode.
throughout the episode.
and then you would mention a book and I would say, like, have you seen it? And be like,
read
no.
it? No.
Okay. I'm loving the discussion already, but I think I should give an overview of the book
Yep.
for
Yeah,
any
good
listener.
idea.
You got to keep me on track.
I need an overview of the book.
Yeah, so I had already heard of it like many years ago. I think when it was a bestseller in China, I'd seen it in bookstores, and I had read another book by Han Kang last year. It was called The White Book, and it was very different from this book because The White Book was more of a non-fiction piece about the author's own experience, and I really enjoyed that. Her prose is the same kind of style, very lean but very impactful. So that was The White Book. With The Vegetarian, like I said, it's literary fiction, and it's divided into 3 sections. The first section is called The Vegetarian. Second section is Mongolian Mark. The third section is, Derek, help me here, is it Flaming Trees?
Yeah, I think it.
Flaming Trees.
Okay. Derek, you might need to stay closer to the mic.
Flaming Trees.
Bit of ASMR for you all.
The basic setup is that we have this woman who, the story is set in modern day South Korea. We have this ordinary young woman. Her name is Yang Hei. She suddenly decided to become a vegetarian. And in, I guess, modern day Korean society, it's not so common as it is in the West. There isn't this culture of, like, before a party, you ask everyone their dietary requirements or anything like that. It's kind of assumed that everyone would just eat everything. So she suddenly becomes vegetarian, and her husband, her sister, and her parents are all very shocked. And then when they ask her why, she says it's because of a dream that she had. So that's basically the whole setup of the story, right? And then so, like we mentioned, the first section, The Vegetarian, is written from her husband's first-person perspective. And then the second section, Mongolian Mark, is from her sister's husband's perspective. And then the third section, Flaming Trees, is from yet another perspective, is from Yang Hei's sister. How about we do a 5-word summary of how we all felt about the book?
Confused, but here for it.
Confused, but here for it. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Man, I'm not going to be able to get the number right.
Less than 5 is fine.
Maybe you go first.
Okay, mine is simple. I freaking loved it.
Nice.
That's how I feel about this book. It's just so brilliant and original in every way, I think. Yeah. What's your 5 words? He's counting on his fingers.
Patriarchy bad, shame.
I don't think you can count.
And
No,
also, like,
I couldn't get to 5.
this is your feeling, not a summary of the book. In 5 words.
Okay.
Like your feeling in 5 words.
Oh, my feelings
Yeah.
about it. Yeah. No, I really liked it.
I really liked it. Perfect.
He said no, I really liked it. So
That's 5 words.
You
Okay.
nailed it.
Fantastic. Okay. We were talking about how erotic this book was. That's mostly in the second section. I feel like I should explain what a Mongolian Mark is because I feel like
I didn't know what it was.
No, I didn't know what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did know.
You knew?
Be impressed, guys.
The hell?
Oh, no, I don't know why, but like it was something like my uncle had mentioned to me when I was like a kid. So I knew what it was.
Oh.
This is a birthmark that like, it's basically a birthmark that Asians have if like, and then that when they're kids and then they get older and then it disappears.
How have I never heard of it? That's crazy.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I looked it up and it was like mostly prevalent in like East Asian culture and then like Latin American.
Oh, I didn't know that Latin
As
Americans
well.
also had it. Yeah.
But it's like specific pockets of people.
Interesting. And is it always on the back or the butt?
Usually.
Pretty much.
Okay. Because that was a significant part of the second section of this book. So
Yeah.
basically, the timeline is that at that point, in that Mongolian Mark section, the woman had already turned vegetarian for a while. And then her sister mentions just in passing to her own husband that, I think my sister, when she was young, she had a Mongolian Mark, like a bluish, greenish
Yeah, and she
mark.
still has it now.
Yeah, on her butt. And then her husband, who is an artist specializing in video art, I think, was just suddenly seized by this image of a naked woman with flowers painted all over her body, having sex with a man also with flowers painted all over his body. And then that woman has a Mongolian mark on her butt. And then he, as an artist, he's just like seized by this idea, and he made sketches. And this was when he was recovering from a long slump as well. He hadn't been able to make art for like 2 years at this point. And then so the story is about how he deals with this sudden inspiration that he receives, this very peculiar image that he sets about try to recreate in real life.
Are you struggling to summarize the story?
Well, I think I did an okay job.
Yeah, you did a really good job.
Yeah, I was like,
Made
are you
more
serious?
sense than the book.
That's the thing, though, making sense. I felt this reminds me something that you said, Derek, that this story or the writing is really in control. I felt that even though the images were so weird and the things that the characters are doing are so strange, it felt like the writing is very controlled, and I felt like I'm being taken on an adventure as a reader. I never felt disoriented or frustrated. It was confusing, but it wasn't. It never felt like frustrating or like the writer deliberately tried to confuse me or anything. It's like she's taking me along.
I think everything is very deliberate. It's very stylized, and you know that whatever you're experiencing is definitely what she wants you to be experiencing at any one moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The thing I really liked about it was you get this thing where through the 3 different characters and their relationship because you never get a proper point of view from
Young-hae
herself.
That's so right.
And so you get people who have like an increasing depth of perception of her, like over the course of the story. So you start out with like the husband who's this psychopathic, like
Hate the husband.
Like traditional
Korean
man.
patriarch type.
Disgusting.
Yeah. And but it's not even like he's not. It's kind of weird because even though he's like a stereotypical like just I'm a guy whatever. It's actually he doesn't give a shit about anything. Like he treats it. There's a line where it basically says he treats her like an appliance.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like really great because it's like it's very different than an object or an accessory and applied to something you
to be
use.
used. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
To
Like
get value
when
out
he's
of.
like doing all these things to sort of make her better, it's never because he actually cares about her. It's like he just wants her to be the good wife that he expected her to be. And so even though he's concerned for her, it is purely out of his own self-interest.
Exactly. Her vegetarianism will inconvenience his own life. That's why he doesn't like it.
And he doesn't care about anything. Like it's not even just her. Like he doesn't give a shit about anything. This guy is just the worst person
Soulless.
ever.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And can we talk about her parents as well, especially in the first section?
Yeah.
So her family had this very visceral and very negative reaction to her vegetarianism.
Yeah.
And I think the theme of women's autonomy is like really like brilliantly highlighted, especially in that first section. Is like this woman chooses not to eat meat, and then she begins to lose a lot of weight, and it is not healthy. That's right. And then her family literally force her to eat meat, like using violence and intimidation. And it just goes to show like almost when as a wife and as a young woman, your body doesn't really belong to you. Even like when you do poor things to it and you don't take care of it, it's like you're damaging other people's like other people's property even. And then her parents apologize to her husband for her behavior. Like, oh, I'm so ashamed of my daughter. That was just ridiculous.
The thing that I thought about it the whole time was that like, but it made me think, oh, this is like a story that's not actually about the patriarchy, like in large. It's like it's purely a byproduct of the context. Like the story isn't about that at all. Like it's purely about at its like core, right? It's just about a woman becoming a plant. That's the actual story.
Like that's a bit of a spoiler.
Oh yeah.
But that's mostly in the third section.
we can
though.
we can take that. Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's good.
But the idea being like it's like the story is about her and how everyone reacts to her
Exactly, yeah.
as someone who's broken through like social constraints. And it just happens that the social constraints are very patriarchal and so on. But it didn't feel like a commentary on it.
No,
Yeah.
you're right. It's not on the nose at all. It's not like a deliberate attack. It just so happens, like what you said, like a thought experiment almost. Like, how would the social order react to a woman doing this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I feel I should explain the becoming a plant because I thought that was genius and kind of hilarious. So in the third section, Flaming Trees, that section is more about Young Hae's sister and Young Hae's relationship. So at that point, Young Hae is already in a mental hospital and she likes to do handstands and she would stand on her hands for like hours on end because she says, "Oh, have you seen the trees? It's like their arms are actually going into the ground and then like how beautiful is that?" And then that's when she's kind of like went from I'm just only eating plants to I'm becoming a plant.
Yeah.
Should we say spoiler alert? Is that a thing that we're gonna have to put at some point in the
To be honest, I don't think how are we going to spoil this book?
Yeah, I agree. It's not the kind of book that you can spoil because none of it really makes sense.
Exactly.
It's
I don't
not
think
like
we can
a plot
spoil
twist
it.
because there isn't a plot to be
Yeah.
twisted.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think we should feel free to discuss because if any listener
It
has
is a
read the
club.
book,
Yeah.
like
Well, they'll wanna
they're
hear
gonna
about
get
it.
more out of it from our discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I liked about it the most was, and like, because my brain is simple and it doesn't make sense of something unless it's very clearly structured.
Uh-huh.
So having that like very clear, like 3-person perspective, each character goes through a change within that's their story. And then over the course of each of the 3 stories, you get slowly, because it goes from more distant to more close. And so you get more of the backstory of this character of like Yonghae over each of the stories, and it like climaxes to the end where you're like, you find out all these things about what happened in her life, and like how
That's true.
she's been abused, blah, 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 all that stuff. And so that was really satisfying to me. Like,
Yeah. I think as a writer, like she definitely that was definitely a considered choice,
Yeah,
a carefully
sure.
considered choice. That childhood trauma, of how her father abused her because she's the second daughter, like that's more revealed towards the end, not in the beginning, where in the present day her father is hitting her for being a vegetarian. So that's like.
Yeah.
I like what you said. It's like a slow progression to getting to know the character.
because when you finally realize like, oh, this has been happening, she's been quote unquote weird her whole life. And people have just been kind of ignoring it. The first 2 characters don't really get that sense. Like they don't know that at all. Like they were kind of like, oh, like she's become weird.
Yeah.
But then by the time you get to the end, you're like, oh, she's always been like this and she's always never wanted to be here. And like,
Yeah, there's that flashback that you hear from the sister where they were on that walk and it seems really idyllic when they were kids. And you get like a sort of a suggestion that if her sister had been more understanding of her in that moment when they were kids and they were innocent and things hadn't all gone horribly wrong yet, that Younghae's whole life would have gone very differently and she would have been seen and understood and none of this would happen. And so it's like taking her back to childhood and like in that moment you feel like you do maybe understand her, even though what she's doing doesn't make any sense in her present life.
Yeah, she said, what if we just never gone home, right?
Yeah.
That was terrifying. Like, imagine if a kid says that. It's like, I feel like that makes me think of all the issues related to mental health as well. It's like when at what age would it show, right, in a person?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of commentary on mental health as well as society and just living in modern day life. You know, like the fact that they are out in nature on this walk and the whole time, you know, she's getting progressively more insane and unhinged. She's going back to nature. It's like, I do think that was also a commentary on how we're all so disconnected from, you know, just what we should be, which is out in nature and
I think you're
the
right.
planet.
Yeah. I just thought the forest imagery was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like throughout, like what a heartless sea of green, like a fireworks
Yeah.
of green. Like that was just so
And
gorgeous.
in the second section as well, like the fact that Young-hae is managed to be coaxed into this like weird sex act because she finds the flowers so beautiful. It's like so messed up and so heartbreaking that she's so mesmerized by just the image of flowers that she would let herself basically just be abused because she just loves the imagery of the nature so much on her body. It's like she thinks she's one with the trees, and so she doesn't mind this horrible guy doing all this stuff to her.
Yeah, you're right. I think I totally missed that layer, but thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah,
I think that's
Well,
great.
this is the thing. It's like, I don't know. This is just my sort of
No, I
interpretation.
think nature is
but-
definitely very important in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also never see any mention of nature when they're in like the city, like at all. Like they never describe trees or anything like that.
Yeah.
And most of the nature is actually imagined, because most of the nature is like
The paintings on the bodies and then
the painting on the body,
memories.
all of the memories. I thought one of the things that I really liked that I thought was really strange. This is gonna sound horrible,
Go for it. I'm excited.
but I think if you're a guy and I doubt anyone relates to the first character, but I can definitely relate to the second character, which is
I think plenty of people relate to the first character.
well,
I
those
can-
people would not know that they're
That
That
they're
they-
being attacked by the book. Yeah, I know. Like I can see some husband apologists out there. I can already hear the arguments they'll be like, it is kind of a selfish thing for a woman of her age to do, like it's not fair for her family for her to just be like a naughty kid and not eat meat. Like how can she how can she not consider how much her husband and her parents worry for her, like I can already imagine these arguments being said. But anyway, go back. Do you relate to the second
it's
guy?
genuinely like all the two guys represent different ways of objectifying like this woman, right? So like the first guy
Yes.
objectifies like, as an appliance or whatever.
Yeah.
The second one sees her as a concept or like this idea
Wow.
that he's like pursuing.
That's great.
Well,
I
I
love it.
saw-
Not done
as,
anything that
like-
horrible, but
I saw it as like when men sort of like, or anyone likes to put someone on a pedestal, and it's like they're in awe of them. And so on the surface, it's like, oh, they see them as equals, but it's like, it's still detaching them from being a human. Like I remember in school, people would have crushes, and, especially the guys would be like, oh my God, this girl's like an angel. She can do no wrong. Like would just get so head over heels obsessed. And it was like equally unhealthy because they're not seeing that person as a human. It's like a weird fetishistic idea of perfection that they think they can attain.
I love what you said. Two ways of objectifying women. That's great. Yeah.
And then the third bit is like the sister who is obviously done the most for her, like
going to the hospital.
She's like the
caring for
only
her.
good character.
but honestly,
I feel so sorry for her.
oh my goodness,
really?
yeah.
Okay, so even at the
Definitely.
end, I consider her like she's also the cause of the problems as well. When she goes into that bit where she starts talking about being a self-sacrificing eldest daughter.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's really, I don't know why, but that really resonates. I know why. Anyway,
Are you the oldest sibling?
I am, but there's this sort of, she views her obviously as a sister and she cares for her and she loves her, but she also views her more as a thing as well, rather than like a person. Like there's never any sort of, it's this carers mentality.
Exactly, charisman.
And it's like, you need it sometimes, but also that also doesn't respect somebody's autonomy.
That's so right.
Yeah.
And then she even says that even in childhood, it's this charisman eldest daughter thing that she does that keeps her away from her father's abuse. It's because she would serve tea or cut fruit or something like that in the household, that she would be spared from the worst of her father's wrath, and that it was her younger sister who took it. So like she is complicit in that way, I think.
Yeah. And it's just the kind of and my favorite part of the whole thing is actually at the end of each one, each of the chapters, each of the characters gets a lot closer to her experiencing how Yonghae feels, or at least
Oh, yeah.
touching the madness. Because the first,
Yeah, that's
because
cool.
the bit where at the end the husband comes out to find her in the fountain or something,
Oh,
and she's
yeah.
like slashed her wrists, and then he goes home the next day, and you find out later he like divorced her and stuff, but he starts having the dreams. He starts having if you go to
That's
Think
such a
that
good point,
detail.
honestly.
yeah, so he
That's
starts
cool.
having the dreams.
Yeah.
The weird pitiful artist loser guy, he at the end of that he gets caught by this instinct to suddenly kill himself and hurl himself from the balcony
Yeah.
to follow the kind of like idea in his head,
Yeah.
which is I think it's the bird. He had like this image of a bird or something.
Yeah, leaping off the balcony.
Yeah. So he wanted to do that the same because he got inspired by her being a tree or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the sister at the end, it's not the thing that happens in the future, but it's the memory that
That's
no,
right.
it is the thing that happens in the future where she randomly leaves her kid there
Yeah.
and walks off into like
to the forest.
the
To-
forest.
Yeah.
Carrying a
yeah.
cord, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. You're absolutely right. The narrator of each section becomes closer to Yang Hei at the end of each story. And
Yeah.
especially for the two sisters bits, it's almost like the boundary between those two women are blurred.
Yeah, I
Even
think
in
there's
the
even a
end.
line in it where she starts saying like
Yeah, I
maybe
think so.
Yonghae.
Like, could
Like,
have been me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
That's
interesting.
genius. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I think it's like, it's kind of like her experiencing and going through all that stuff is infectious because everyone starts to also question their place in society and be like,
maybe
is this
society's
actually
wrong. Yeah.
me or am I just like playing this weird role that society has carved
Yeah.
out for me?
And then the fun bit is what you get all of the characters' impressions of all the other characters.
Yeah, that's so funny. The
yeah.
artist guy's opinions on the husband was so funny.
Yeah. I was like agreeing with him the whole
Right?
time. I was like, yes.
Because even he sees how much the husband just treats her like an appliance, and
Yeah.
he doesn't like that.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is, even though he doesn't like that, he doesn't realize what he's doing is almost equally disrespectful.
Yeah, exactly. Both of the men are like
Yeah.
completely ignorant of their own
and
downfall.
then like later on you see the wife be like
Oh yeah.
she was in like a like she needed help and you like took advantage of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. And then
that's
the sister's opinion on her own husband as well.
Yeah.
That was super interesting.
Mm.
She definitely had the charisma mentality towards him too, because he's like a starving, struggling artist. And then she's like, I'll take care of the finances, the household, and support you. I don't understand your art, but I will support you anyway.
Yeah. She's complicit in how sort of passive she is.
Because-
like she
'cause-
just lets
Yeah,
everything happen, which is, almost as bad as the person doing the things.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, the answer is everyone sucks.
Pretty much, unless you're a tree.
Unless you're young.
Yeah, unless you're a tree, everyone
Oh my
sucks.
God.
Be a tree.
Yeah.
Poor
That's the
young
moral of the
Hei.
story. Be a tree.
I feel
All of
like
us
this
should.
book's depiction of mental illness is so compelling as well.
It's very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's a nurse and she knows people or has worked with people who are so self-destructive that they will self-harm in the most horrific ways. And it's kind of exactly what Yonghae's doing. I don't know if it is as literal in the book as it, is in real life, but 100% there would be people who are doing pretty much what Yonghae's
Exactly,
doing and starving themselves and literally thinking they're becoming plants and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
that's right.
Like nothing in this book is, that far from the truth.
I think it reminded me a little bit of The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, because that book also has a little bit of like psychiatric hospital description. But I actually think The Vegetarian is a bit more coherent and well put together than The Bell Jar, because Sylvia Plath was so young when she wrote The Bell Jar and stuff. But anyway, I love how the book shows the toll that caring for a mental health patient takes on their family as well. It's like even if you're healthy when you started caring for your sister who's ill, like it's like you're driven mad as well.
Yeah,
by the entire
definitely.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, the question is like, weren't you always mad? And aren't you now just realizing that you're mad because you see it reflected? Like that was what I got from the whole thing. It was like the chaos and instability of humanity is held together by this really rigid structure of like
the
of
thread,
society.
right? Yeah.
And then when someone starts to pick at it, once they pull that thread, the whole thing comes undone.
Yeah, definitely.
That's right.
Like in the second part, the guy, you know, the artist, he's perfectly sane. And, you know, Young-hae's portrayed as being this, like, crazy woman because she refuses to put on clothes and she says weird stuff sometimes and whatever. But, like, if you actually think about what he's doing, he is as insane as anyone. Like, to be orchestrating this weird roundabout way of getting these people to basically just have sex for his weird imagined art. It's I think he's the crazy one in this situation.
I think that's a little bit of commentary, or makes me think about the role of art in society as well, right? It's like, should we allow it to be this space? It already is, but should it be a space where you can go a little bit insane? And that,
yeah, of course it should. It's just you shouldn't like actually abuse people.
Yeah. So it's like short of the abuse, right? Like that's the line that he crosses, and you can see him actively deciding to cross the line.
Yeah.
So you can see the choices that he
it does
makes.
make him crazy. Like this image in his head, he's so stricken by it that it's like he has to make this a reality or he is going to lose it.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the guy that, like, the artist guy, he initially didn't get in front of the camera to try to have sex with Young-hae. He tried to get his other artist friend to do it first. Like, can we talk about, like, I was rooting for him when he decided to, like, nah, I'm drawing a line. I'm not actually doing it.
I was like, oh, yeah, another sane character.
Yeah, I'm like,
in the book.
I was rooting for him. Derek is like, no,
because that's the thing, right? And this is what I was talking about, like masking the insanity. He was always going to do the thing. He just kept trying to block himself from doing it.
Yeah, like I kind of agree. You could sense that he wanted to do it. It's just the societal pressure
the thread.
Ultimately won
He didn't
out.
let
Like
go of the
pushing
thread.
it back.
Yeah,
Whereas,
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
and so, I don't know.
Whereas Young-hae represents, as crazy
On the
as
other
she's
side
going,
of
she
the-
represents freedom and sort of, you know, sticking it to the man. And so in a way, if that guy had stayed and actually had sex with her, like that almost would have been a better scenario, as twisted as that is. It's like they would have both been caught up in this weird act of rebellion against societal norms.
For that guy, it started out as curiosity.
Yeah.
But then, he pulled back at the last minute. I love what you said earlier about picking at the thread. It's like the word thread and boundary appears a lot in this book.
God,
it's constantly said. And then I think you're totally right. Like, Young-hae is someone who's entirely crossed the boundary and she's on the other side. And then being close to her, like, drags everyone around her closer to the boundary and, like, tugs them against it.
Yeah.
I feel like because I kind of understood, like, I don't know, the second guy is cooked, but like I really get it. Like,
yeah, that's interesting.
I'm so curious to see your interpretation of the second section, because that's the section that confused me the most, I think.
Really?
I definitely enjoyed it the most.
I had a lot of fun, but it was
just the one that made
confused.
the most sense to me, because like I've not done that level of horrible thing.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand like chasing the insanity a little bit. You're like,
oh yeah,
because that's how I get it. Like, it's like you're obsessed with this thing and you can't put it out of your mind, so you just keep following it to wherever it goes. The thing that he does is that pitiful attempt to like kill himself. He knew he wasn't going to die, and when he knew that he wasn't going to die, like, then he did it. Because there's like, they make a big thing about the end where they're like, oh, there was nothing left in their eyes or something. There was no regret, no lust, no whatever. There was only terror that everyone felt. And that's how I feel about the whole story. The whole story is just about like, when you're left, like, and you have to look at yourself in the mirror and you're just horrified. That's what I felt.
Yeah.
All the characters get to that point. Like, and I love that.
Yeah, the artist
Come
guy.
close to the
That's right.
the darkness.
The artist guy was definitely chasing the insanity, I think.
Yeah.
He's a bit more active. The husband was like the most resistant.
Yeah,
at least in the beginning.
And the sister's quite far out of it as well. You know, she does play her role very well of like the good wife.
And then in the end, she caves a little bit to the insanity, which is
Yeah, you sort of see the start of it at the end, and then you know that it's gonna get as bad as Young-hae because of what she said about them, maybe being the same.
it was just
another thing about the Mongolian Mark that's interesting to just think about is when I was researching it in a lot of like Asian mythology, it's like there's the idea that it's a bruise from some kind of mythological creature having smacked the child as it came out of the womb to like encourage it to go out, and how having the Mongolian Mark still as an adult has this connotation of like not having grown up yet and being sort of underdeveloped.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
And so the thought of like Young-hae is still just a little girl, like she hasn't found her place in society yet, and how everyone, and especially the artist, as soon as he knows that, it's like it's something that he does want, is this taste of like innocence and
like true freedom.
Yeah, it's like she's kind of still got that childlike innocence
Unhingedness.
to her. Yeah,
because she reverts, right? Like they have in the third part, you see all these descriptions of like she gets better and then she stops eating again, and then she starts growing these fine like childlike hairs.
Yeah.
It's only like old man like hairs.
No. But,
Old man hair.
yeah, they are. But you know the way that like kids are like covered in this like very fine hair.
Oh,
It's like fluff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a symptom of starvation.
Yeah. But it all like
Yeah.
links to this one thing.
Yeah, and then the fact that she doesn't want to wear clothing, it's like she wants to go back to being a baby almost,
She's like
I think.
photosynthesizing
Yeah, trying to photosynthesize.
using her boobs.
That was a
That
little
was-
bit funny.
That
I'll
was
be
so
honest.
funny,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Anytime she's like, oh, she bore her breast to the sun or something, that was made me laugh. I was
Yeah.
like,
The funniest thing is, even before she became a vegetarian, she refused to wear a bra, right? I think
that's true.
throughout her whole life or something.
so that's the idea, right?
It was like the one thing about her
Yeah,
that the
yeah.
husband thought was unusual.
Yeah.
Um,
Even the first line of the book, right, is before my wife turned vegetarian, I always thought her as ordinary in every way.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a great line too.
Yeah.
Great line.
Yeah.
Amazing line.
I was gonna say as well. It's funny that was it you that said like it's like, oh, become a plant or something.
Yeah.
That I started reading up on it, and I'm like, oh, apparently this is an adaptation of like something she did in 1997, Fruit of Woman or something, and that
Right.
was inspired because she read a line from like a Korean modernist poet, and the line was, hang on, let me have a look.
I became a tree.
No, it's literally, I believe that humans should be plants. So like
There you
that's
go.
she literally like did that's the thesis, and
I
then
love
there you go.
that so much.
And you just
I
like
love
without
that
knowing
so
just came
much.
across it.
Can you imagine when she tried to pitch this idea to a publisher or something? Like how crazy it would have seemed. Like
Yeah, I don't
want to
know
write
how
about
she managed that.
a woman who wants to be a plant,
I bet she wrote it first.
and then
It's
pitched the
very
idea.
it's very Kafka, hey. Like
A little bit,
I
yeah,
haven't
surreal.
actually read Metamorphosis, but
It
it's
is-
a similar sort of
I have read Metamorphosis, and
This is way better.
really.
Yeah.
to
There
be
you
honest,
go.
I think so too. Metamorphosis is a little bit all over the place, I think. But I think this book is, more coherent, more well delivered, and exploits its own surreality. Is that a word? To its full extent, and I really love that. Yeah.
Did you guys find it interesting reading this Korean novel from like a Westerner's perspective? Because I was reading it like, at least in the first part, stuff about her not wearing a bra, and then all the vegetarian stuff coming out, and they're at that dinner party and it's like super awkward because she's vegetarian, and I'm like, this doesn't necessarily work, like coming from a Westerner.
I guess.
Well,
Westerner's
to be
perspective.
honest-
Obviously it progresses from there, but there was a lot of stuff at the beginning where I was like, I can see why reading this as a Korean would really resonate, but like everyone's reactions when it's first starting are like, they just don't make any sense.
No, I
in
think
the
that's a
Western
great
world.
point. I think that's a great point. But I didn't feel that at all. I
Neither did I.
having lived in Asia most of my life,
Yeah.
I can totally see that. Like, if I go to any kind of dinner, like, no one asks about dietary requirements. And then if you don't eat meat, or if you don't seem very enthusiastic about the food, you will be considered rude.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a woman. Like I have had like uncles and relatives and be like, oh, I'm just here to drink. I won't eat anything. And then people don't tend to make a big deal out of it. But if you're a woman, or if you're like me, a kid, and you have like a specific preference, you're treated like you're a disobedient kid.
Ungrateful or
Yeah, like a fussy eater.
Yeah.
Fussy,
Because that's kind of like the...
Exactly, yeah. So
yeah,
like
it's so interesting.
when it progressed to that huge basically fight scene at the dinner table where people were like, I was just like, you know what, this is a departure from reality, but I can so see it happening. Like, I felt, but you felt like it didn't make sense, right? As a Westerner.
I mean, I see it in both sides because I'm, you know, I have the Western perspective and the Asian perspective, but I can see why if you were, you know, if you didn't have that inside information, it would take you just a one more step to be like, okay, this is why they're acting so insane about it.
About someone being vegan,
Yeah.
I would normally agree, but I think everyone who's read this book will definitely have watched Parasite, and I feel like at this point...
I haven't seen Parasite.
You haven't seen Parasite?
Jesus. We're still doing this.
I've seen like endless reviews of it, and I know it's great, but I just haven't seen it yet, but I will.
So, but like, I guess my point being like, Korean media is so saturated now. Everyone kind of knows what the game is.
That's a good point. There's enough context.
But and to be fair, they do a really good job at like introducing it. They're like, by the way, it's not that weird that she's vegetarian, but it's a little weird when you're out in the sticks.
True.
Yeah,
they do sort of address that. It's
and the fact that the fact that they go to a Buddhist restaurant at one point in the second section.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good. And then I think the translation is really good. I mean, I can't read Korean, but I think the text reads just Asian enough.
There's a lot of because I looked it up this morning. There's a lot of back and forth about whether this should be considered a translation or an adaptation because of all the liberties apparently that this takes, and the author herself seems to like it, but there's a lot of people who are like, it's not really Korean, like too many words.
Yeah.
So I noticed this one thing. Why the does the translator use the word shuck so much?
Shuck?
I remember it. Yeah.
Why do they keep using that? It doesn't fit.
I did not notice that.
I had like a real gripe about this. I kept seeing the word shuck and I was like, sake. Like, it's not...
use another word.
I just remember seeing it once though. It was more than once.
Yeah.
But that's so funny.
Yeah.
What is your beef with that word?
Why like shuck, they kept using like, oh, shuck off my skin, like change into a new thing. And it's like, I feel like this is mixing metaphors. Like it's just shuck is very oystery to me.
Oystery.
What? What does that mean?
You shuck an oyster.
I know what you mean. Sure.
but
It's
shuck,
not a word you use often.
or like crabs, like you like shuck off a shell. Like it's just there's
At least pick a vegetarian metaphor.
yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I was like, man, what the fuck is this? Anyway,
that's so funny. I think what you mean is like
particular.
I think shuck is a very English word, like
yes.
un-Asian word.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's just quite specific.
Yeah.
And so I didn't look it up, but then I kept seeing shuck and I was like, there's something weird about this.
I love there was one bit right in the beginning where so the first section is interspersed with I think the Young-hae's dream. Those dreams are in the first person.
I love those dreams.
Yeah.
They're also in the second, I think, but yeah.
Also in the second, yeah. But that's like the only time that we hear directly from Young-hae.
Yeah.
And they're only like really short sections of always like really graphic dreams that she would have.
Yeah, she never says anything about them either. It's just like experiencing what she's experiencing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then there was one line that said like something like cold night, no people. Like just like periods after those phrases. And I was like, that's great because that's Asian. The fact that she says no people, I think in English it would write like no one there or something like that.
Yeah.
But then no people, I think that's a very Asian phrase. But then obviously the English readers understand. But I think that preserved a little bit of the Asian.
Yeah, preserves the character of it.
Yeah.
It was just not very flowery is the best way I would
It's
describe
not flowery, no.
It's just very to the point.
I thought it actually was quite flowery.
What?
I didn't think so.
Because a lot of like the descriptions are quite. It's very stark.
Stark,
It's stark, but it's still quite descriptive. It's not like
it is
Murakami or something where it's like
it's not like there aren't descriptions. The descriptions are there and they're very
succinct,
sort of,
yeah,
and deliberate.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it's not like you'll find
like
3
punks,
paragraphs that's like
Unnecessary.
describing the environment and going into detail
Yeah.
about the
Okay,
objects
yeah.
Like,
in
I
the
think-
space.
If she describes the environment or the scenery, it's very deliberate. And then like this things are there because she wants you to know that they're there, not because she's just trying to fill the page up with words.
Yeah, it's like you only get what you really, really need.
Yeah.
It's very succinct and stripped back.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I just love that like the real life is like written very matter of factly, and then dreams and visions.
Yeah,
and, like,
that's right.
Yeah.
Like whenever someone sees something weird, when they describe the forest as this undulating set of green
Oh,
flames,
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
That is
that's so
gorgeous.
awesome.
And
So cool.
fireworks as well at another
Yeah.
point. That was beautiful.
cool.
Mm.
sort of like an underrated like thing. Maybe this is a very like masculine perspective, I think. But that
Go for
that second character, he describes an interaction with an ex P or something.
Oh, what?
He
A
describes
what?
an interaction with an ex
Oh, yeah.
who paints his
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah,
paints him.
yeah. The ex's name is P.
Yeah.
The ex- I think.
Yeah, you were like, what?
I think, the listener would have been confused.
Yeah. So the ex's name is P. I think they
about
use
that
letters for a lot of.
Yeah. P and J.
There was something about that relationship that felt like really nostalgic and tender. You know,
Yeah,
in a way that made me think like, oh, that was a perfect encapsulation of like this male artist's sensibility. Like,
Oh.
there's a very because I have a tendency towards that sort of thing as well.
Mhm.
And when I read that, I was like, oh, that's if I could write like this, that's how I would write.
Oh my god.
It's
Oh,
like
that's
there's a certain
interesting.
sort of interaction that's like nostalgia, regret. Like that could have been its own story entirely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
When I
yeah.
read that, I was like, "Oh, that's really cool."
It was just like a little peek into his past.
his life, that his romantic past that's like separate from his banal existence.
Yeah, and the
Mm.
fact that they were still just like such good friends and they just had this sort of way about each other that was so natural.
Yeah,
but they
yeah.
both had their own
Yeah.
separate lives with their
It's the link to the
respective
art.
partners.
It's the link to the because that's to me that's the whole thing, right? Everyone is brought together because they touch this insanity,
Mm.
and the artists in it are very sensitive to the insanity. Like you can see
Yeah.
this sort of like
Yeah, they're like drawn to it.
you can
as
drawn
well.
to it, and I forgot. Is it Jay? I forget the name of the
Jay, yeah.
the guy
The guy who he tries to get to have sex with young
yeah,
Hae
like
first.
he to me that guy is really he like touches the insanity and he's like, oh, I don't want that.
yeah.
He knows that if he
He
crosses
backs
that
away.
boundary, he's fucked.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So he just backs off, and he's the only one that survives. He's the sane one.
The choice of just having that peek into again what could have been
The
an
only one,
alternate reality.
the only one who doesn't have a what would have been is the first guy because he does not give a shit.
No.
Yeah, it's like that
Oh.
was his destiny. It's like he wanted this and he got this.
But at the end, he goes like he starts having the dreams, which I get excited about thinking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when he starts having the dreams at the end, I'm
Maybe it
like,
gets him.
yeah,
Yeah,
I hope it
exactly.
gets him.
nobody's safe.
And that's the thing about it that's so horror. Like you could have easily taken the route of like, well, everyone she touches becomes insane, but it's like more like, oh, they were all cooked, and like,
yeah,
Just
agreed.
brings it
It's
out.
like
We know.
everyone is crazy. Like it's not young hair, it's everyone.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's just what sparks different people to go crazy and to
Yeah.
meet their limit.
Makes us think like what are the threads and boundaries that are keeping our own lives in control right
Yeah,
now? And what if
100%.
we lose Derek is like, I'm already halfway there.
I thought about it a lot.
It's like I've been there and back.
like I've been standing on the balcony. I don't know. Like it's just
Don't say
I can
that.
fly.
Oh no.
Wait, are you chasing
what-
that insanity right now, Derek? You've seen what happens to the artist guy. You
Isn't
don't
that
want to.
Yeah, you don't want to go there. Bad things happen.
He's like, he wants to go there.
It's like
if-
I
if
want
you-
to be a tree.
if
No
you-
one can stop me.
If you had been Jay in that room, you wouldn't have been able to stop.
no. I
You would have gone all the way.
you know what? This is the horrible thing. I know for a fact I couldn't.
You
well,
couldn't.
look, to be fair, if I was maybe if I was the second guy, I would know better because I know she's on
Whoa,
meds and stuff.
Which guy?
like
The artist?
the artist. Like I feel like if once you know someone's on meds, man, get out of here. Don't do that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone could tell quite quickly that she was not mentally stable.
Jay doesn't because Jay thought that she was either a sex
Prostitute?
worker
Yeah.
or a model, right?
Mhm.
So he had no idea.
yeah.
If I was him, maybe I might have just totally lost it.
Yeah. It's hard to know.
For the art. The ways that all three of the characters' perspectives are written are actually really different to me. And the second one in particular, he's got this image of like a noble quest that he's on. He's like, I'm pursuing the truth, sort of like I'm an artist. And it's funny because all the other artists around him, they treat this like they're helping this guy on his hero's journey. Like Jay comes to help him. P, like the ex-girlfriend, comes to help him, and they
even
see
his wife.
And they see him off in this like reluctant hero sort of role, and it's really that's the way he perceives himself. That's so fascinating to me.
Yeah, I think he did feel maybe the most relatable. I didn't think that, but now you've convinced me, because you can kind of see the causation of everything he's doing, even though what he's doing, is
he
wrong.
Is trying
it's like
to
you
make
understand. Art. Yeah, you understand why he's doing everything he's doing.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's like a creative person's thing. Like if you're
I think definitely.
Because surely a lot of people would be like, don't do any of this. Because
we need new people in this book club.
Because we are entirely glossing over the fact, by the way, because we don't care at all morality wise. That's his sister-in-law.
Oh my god, we didn't even mention that.
We don't even care. Like it doesn't matter to us at all.
We're like, yeah, he's cheating, but like whatever.
Oh, the sex. We barely talked about the erotic part of it as well. Because the erotic part of it is so monstrous and so terrifying. Like to me, see, I don't know. It's like, I enjoyed it a lot.
I wouldn't say the sex stuff was terrifying. It was just sort of, it was very unexpectedly explicit, I think, is why it was like, it really does go all the way.
Really? I was so unfazed, man. Like I was just,
yeah, me too.
I was just
well,
so ready.
I mean, I was as well. It's not like I haven't been exposed to reading that, but it was like the sudden shift of like in the first part when Younghae's husband literally rapes her. It's like done in such like a matter of fact way.
That's right. Yeah.
And so it just kind of comes out of nowhere every time, and you're like,
that's
whoa,
true.
I know what you mean.
I was not ready for this, and now it's like suddenly really explicit.
And then when the artist guy does it to his own
wife,
in the second bit, and then like I almost nearly missed it, and I was like,
it's like everything else in the book. It's such a steady and like aware tone that even when you're just talking about something mundane and then talking about like a really explicit sex act, it's with the same controlled tone.
Yeah, that's right.
The whole way through.
The only time it doesn't is when it relates to the flowers or like the trees. Like when there's something
that's very centrally described. I
think. When they describe the bodies as like flowers,
like undulating
together, moving. So like in the wind, like the pistil, like the.
And this thing was that, and the other thing was that. Do you remember that?
What is this thing was that?
Like this organ is this and the other organ is that part of the plant.
She won't say the words.
I honestly don't know how to pronounce the words.
I think they use the words. What is it, like pistil and stamen, right?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, okay. Getting technical.
Yeah, plant anatomy.
Yeah.
101.
Oh, and the bit where she describes herself as a tree and then she spreads her legs so that like a flower will grow from her
Oh my god.
I was like, holy shit.
So wild.
Yeah, I felt like you're definitely right. It might be a creative person thing, because I think to pursue any idea, you do have to be daring, right? You do have to have courage to pursue whatever vision that's occurring.
It's like
in your
a
mind.
leap of faith.
Yeah. And I think the fact that the writer designed this person as an artist, it makes a lot of sense for an artist to go on this horribly immoral quest.
That's a great way to describe it. A horribly immoral quest.
Yeah.
That's because it's like the idea that maybe you'll be redeemed when you reach the end.
Yeah, because if it's in the pursuit of art, there's this weird sort of idea that there's an artistic license. Yeah, exactly. Because art is sort of seen as inherently benevolent. It's like, oh, if you're artistic, it's probably because you're trying to, you're trying to connect with other people on some kind of level. It's like art isn't seen as a bad thing. So it's like if he is doing all these horrible things, but in the pursuit of something ultimately great,
that's how he views himself.
Weirdly exempt in people's eyes.
I think honestly, the reader is kind of complicit in that as well, right? Like the fact that in the beginning, we kind of went along with it, and then yeah, that's something to think about.
Well, the idea, I mean, at the end of the day, the idea is that we're all not that different, right? Like, we're actually not that different from the first guy or the second
Yeah,
guy.
that's right.
Yeah.
or,
yeah.
or the sister, or like Young-hae herself, right?
Mm.
And so we're all like trapped in this.
Please don't use licensed poetics to do anything bad.
What? I'm not going to start a cult. What do you think I'm doing?
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the listener.
Oh, okay.
Start a cult. He told me to start a cult in the message
Oh my
at the
goodness.
party.
OnlyFans and a cult. You're full of
Book
ideas.
club only. Book club
It was
only.
a pitch. It was a pitch for a show. We were like,
Oh yeah.
yeah. It was about a reluctant sex cult. Like,
A reluctant.
so everyone is.
Oh my god, you are the second guy in the. You actually are the
You
artist.
are, yeah.
I'm not planning to do
Is
it.
it based on you?
No.
Inspired.
We find a string of emails between Derek and Han Kang stretch back to 2014.
I consulted on the book. Like, I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
Is your name in the acknowledgements?
We can check right now. Yeah, I mean, going back to the sex stuff, because apparently that's my favorite topic. One thing that did strike me, I haven't read a lot of Korean novels, but I have seen a lot of Korean films. And a lot of them are very weirdly
sex is
sexual.
but why is the sex always weird, right?
Right?
Have you seen like have you seen
Have
The
you seen
Handmaiden?
The Handmaiden? Yeah.
I was just about to be like,
Derek knows what's up.
Derek
because
recommended it to me the other day.
it's so
You
good.
have to watch
it's
it.
so good.
It's a masterpiece. But him and his other films, I forget his name, I think it's Park Chan-Wook.
Old boy.
All of his films, and maybe I shouldn't generalize this to Korean cinema. Maybe it's just this one director.
I think we might gravitate towards weird,
Yeah,
like, weird Korean
but
stuff.
all of his films are great, but there's really sort of strange sexual stuff going on. It's not just sex stuff. It's like usually there's incest, usually there's like weird bestiality stuff
That's
going
very
on.
interesting.
Sex is always weird.
It's so closely tied, I think, to individual autonomy and like that say that you have over your own body.
Yeah.
You should really, if you really watch The Handmaiden, because
It's very
so,
feminist.
Okay.
It's so about that. Like, it's so. The movie I think it's most similar to is The Prestige. I don't know why.
I love The Prestige.
Yeah.
I
And
would
just like, what?
strongly disagree.
I actually
It's
think
a hard no.
I actually
for
think
me.
it's like the opposite of The Prestige. So The Prestige is about like men doing men things
Yeah.
and women are objects or whatever.
Yeah.
This is
I did
like,
not read that film like that at all.
No, women-
that was just
women are,
magicians having a good time.
Women are the stakes in that story.
women are the stakes in that story, right? And I love the. I don't know. So also it has this. It has the best like 3-act structure like reveals.
What, The Handmaiden?
Yeah,
I have to read
sorry,
it.
that's really what I'm
I have
talking
to
about.
watch it.
Because
Oh, sure. You're talking about structure.
Yeah, structurally.
Sure. Okay.
It's like they have this great. It like you know because what are the 3 steps that you find out in The Prestige? Like the
Oh yeah.
I can't remember
The,
the.
I don't remember
the
there being
intro, the
steps.
suspense, and then the prestige.
Yeah, and then the
Prestige is
Prestige.
like the reveal.
And that's exactly what happens in The Handmaiden. It's really
Okay,
cool.
I'm with you now.
It's really great. Watch The Handmaiden. The thing that I like the most about the sex scene
Yes.
is the parallel you see when she's reacting to the flowers and not the person.
Oh, that's so
and
good.
they make that scene really obvious.
That was
because
genius.
She like keeps stroking
the
like,
flowers on his chest.
the
Yeah.
flower on the chest, which
Oh my
is
God.
like the red, and it's the same. It's the same one, so it's like this red thing.
Red, on the
Yeah.
chest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, there's a really great point there where it seemed like the sex wasn't even sexual. It seemed more close to this plant existence or whatever than the actual sex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So it's like the film that he's trying to make of these 2 people painted in flowers having sex is not actually about sex, but just about like the plant intertwined imagery almost.
But then, when it is, away from what he originally imagined in his head and now it's him doing it and he's the one getting painted, it's like, okay, now it is just the lust that's taken over.
That's
but
right.
for Young-hae, it is
Still about the
something different.
flowers
Yeah.
completely. For her, it's completely about the
Because
flowers.
that's the scene where they like. That's where he goes to her apartment or something, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And all the sex is so violent,
Yeah.
which is
I'd
why
agree
like
with
It's like half of it is like rape scenes.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
most of it
Actually,
is.
most of it is.
like
Actually, all of it. Because
Yeah,
you
you're
even though
right.
Young-hae's consenting, she's not like mentally
You're right.
able enough
All of
to
it.
be a consenting adult.
The scene between the artist and his ex, that probably wasn't, that was consensual, I think. But it wasn't really described.
That was the most.
Did they have sex? I don't remember.
No.
I think I did.
No, they don't have sex. Like it's like a tender kiss or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they would have had sex
And it was,
after
and
he
it
left.
was like the most.
Oh, it's implied. Maybe.
I think.
It's the most romantic scene in the whole book.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like there's no. That's the only time you see actual love or affection.
Yeah, that's true. Actually.
That's so right.
God, it's so fucking bleak. Like
Oh God, so dark. So dark.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to Korea in a couple of weeks.
Oh.
don't stand on any
And,
balconies. Don't.
Yeah.
Don't go into the forests.
Don't go near nature. I'll want to become
What do you mean?
a tree.
I was just gonna say, make sure you go to the forest.
Yeah. Well, ironically, it's like, I was trying to book a hotel and everything, and it is just one of those cities that is suffocatingly cramped. It's like everyone is just grinding away at the hustle of getting enough money to live, and it can feel absolutely claustrophobic and suffocating to sort of.
Well, there's a whole thing about like really homogenous cultures, right? Like cultural homogeneity
yeah.
is like a whole thing.
There's a bit of homogeneity in the West as well, like suburbia.
Definitely.
I love thinking about that. Like
Really?
the identical houses, like
Oh yeah.
Oh, I hate that shit so much.
the identical houses, the identical cars, the identical running outfits,
So, but it's
Oh
like,
my goodness,
it's kind
yeah.
of horrifying.
If you go to
the identical
Bondi.
tennis rackets. Like
Yeah.
I love
everyone's
thinking
the
about
same.
that.
Bondi, yeah,
anytime homogeneity, I can't say that word.
homogeneity.
Homogeneity occurs. It's always fascinating.
And because anytime
It
you see
is.
it, you're like, what's the madness? There must be madness simmering beneath this.
Yeah.
So who's been painting on people's bodies? Like, must be one in this neighborhood. All right. Okay, I think we are going over time now. So
Okay.
it might be a
Alright.
good time to wrap up the episode. Thank you so much to you guys for the fantastic episode. I think that was a brilliant book club.
Woohoo.
I think we
it
went
was
so
fun.
deep into
It was
the
a
book.
really good book
Yeah.
to talk about.
I'm gonna go turn into a tree.
Let's do it. Let's all be trees.
What
This will
tree
be
would
our
you be?
cult.
Oh my god, I know what tree I would be. I know.
You know the tree?
I
That's
immediately
so
know
funny.
the tree.
You are young hair.
I
This
know,
is
right?
how it
There's-
starts.
There's like one tree actually named in the book. It's like a Zelkova or something.
Yeah. That
Is
weird.
Is that the
Zelkova.
tree?
No.
Okay.
I was just gonna say I want to be a ginkgo, which is
They
important,
are beautiful
right?
trees.
It's a ginkgo. Why do you guys know
That's a good
trees?
choice. No,
Right?
that is genuinely a good choice. They're beautiful. They have really peculiar leaves.
Yeah, it's like a fan-shaped leaf, and then they turn bright yellow in autumn time.
Okay, so I have a quick question about the book.
Yeah.
Why does she photosynthesize by like showing her boobs?
No, it's not specifically the boobs, Derek.
Because that's
It's her entire
Not just the
torso.
boobs. It's the
that's how it's
skin.
described, like very specifically. Because it's like this, right? It's like I would have thought that these are the leaves, like the hands would be the leaves.
It's just the fact that she bore her breasts to the sun, as in like she's just exposing her whole body. It's like
That photosynthesis bit was so funny. Like it was, I
love how this is what you were thinking about the whole time. You're like, I don't understand. How is she meant to photosynthesize from
true?
just her boobs?
is that
that was really confusing to me. That I really stuck on that point.
Is it true that if boobs are mentioned in a book, if
One
boobs are mentioned
single
in the
tit.
it's mentioned in a book, that's what men will focus on.
This is how we sell it to the world. There are boobs in this
There's
book.
boobs in this
guys.
book.
Disclaimer.
Oh man,
Many
boobs.
Okay, should that be
No,
the
it's
title
only
of
the
this
same.
episode?
It's the same two boobs.
Many boobs.
It's actually the same two boobs over and over again.
Should that be the title of this episode?
Please.
There
know
are
what?
boobs.
To be fair, you know what? In the interest of gender equality, the guy's boobs, the artist dude's boobs, are mentioned a lot.
You mean his paunch?
His
His
paunch is also
paunch.
mentioned.
And his penis is mentioned many times too. But I don't think that would attract female readers at
No.
all.
No. But
Probably
his
a
paunch.
turn off, if anything.
Dad bod alert.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
The paunch is just a nasty word.
I didn't enjoy imagining that image in my head
No.
particularly.
Definitely.
Well, that
don't.
was why I thought it was funny that his ex was like attracted to him all of a sudden as she was painting his body.
Yeah.
That's the sign that the madness keeps spreading out. It's a conspiracy.
Whoever holds the paintbrush has
Yeah.
just lost
Oh,
it.
I like it. Yeah.
All right, we need to wrap
All right,
up.
wrapping up.
The studio is
Enough
gonna
boob talk.
kick us out. Thank you so much again to Anya and Derek. I really hope the listeners enjoyed this episode as well. Do check this book out, The Vegetarian by Han Kang. I think you'll really like it.
Yay.
Yeah.
Also watch The Handmaiden and
Yes.
Decision to Leave.
Okay, but it's not for the faint-hearted, so
No, if you're a
Please.
beginner reader, go slow and try to be generous and patient with the book. And I hope our discussion today can help you a little.
Unless you like really weird stuff, then you'll love it.
then
Doesn't
you'll
matter.
love watching all these weird movies and weird books.
Yeah. If this is the book that gets you into reading, that's
I think
awesome.
this could. This is the sort of book that like would pull me into reading.
Aww.
Yeah, so like I mean that's why like this is weird enough to be worth reading.
I do think
Definitely.
it would scare a lot of people.
Oh, okay. Never
To be
mind.
fair, yes.
Ignore me.
But it is short and the
And
language
there
is
are
accessible.
boobs.
And
There are boobs. That's
yeah.
right.
That'll get you through it.
Boobs and trees, for those who love nature. Why is that not the name of the book?
That's the
Boobs and
new
trees.
line.
Imagine
Boobs
if it's
and
called
trees.
Boobs and Trees.
Boobs and trees.
Everyone would read it. Everyone.
That's the episode's name, by the way, right?
Boobs and trees.
I'll think about it. That's a great title though, to be honest. All right.
Of boobs and trees.
Yes.
Of Mice and Men, but of Boobs and Trees.
Oh my god!
We'll
yes,
totally read
yes,
that.
that's so good.
This will be taught in schools forever.
Should this be marked as an explicit episode?
We didn't say anything.
If I censor
bad
out
about
all
it.
of Derek's swear words,
Jesus.
I thought you were going to say just all of Derek's parts.
I hope, and you can leave in the pauses. It'd just be like, yeah, I know that makes sense.
all right. We'll see how this goes in editing.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Licensed Poetics. I'm your host, Fang Ling, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.